right, so you're in the market for an EV, hoping for a tax credit. It used to be you get a nice fat $7,500 check for one. Now it's a bit different. You might have heard of the new changes to the federal tax credit. And I know it can get pretty confusing trying to sift through all the minutia. No worries, that's why I'm here. In this video, I'm gonna break down the 7 most important things you need to know. And if you want to know specifically if you personally qualify, well, you gotta stick around and I'll let you know the #1 deciding factor. But first, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and be sure to visit Edmunds.com to find your next car. Also, if you want to read a bit more in depth on this topic, click the link below for our full article. Okay, first off, what's up with the new changes to the law anyway? The federal government clearly wants to promote the production and sale of affordable EVs, as well as strengthen our regional EV supply chain. And of course, it helps because EVs are so expensive. The downside, the new legislation will eliminate many EVs and plug-in hybrid EVs, or PHEVs, that used to qualify for an electric car tax credit, at least for right now. That said, let's talk about the first thing you need to know on our list. Of course, it'd be easy if the federal government just lumped every EV together and made their changes. But no, that would be a fantasy world. First things first, you must know that as of the start of next year, these price limits for new vehicles will take effect immediately. But if your fantasy EV is less than those amounts, good news, your car is still eligible and you can treat yourself. Treat yourself! As long as you personally qualify, and that of course, I'm withholding until the end. If you really want to find your specific car, the US Department of Energy has the entire list and you can sift through them all on their website by manufacturer and model. The second most important thing you need to know that's already gone into effect since this past August is that all qualifying vehicles must be assembled in North America, no matter the model year. All right, this one seems like a no-brainer, like what your family probably says about all your family secrets. Shh, let's just brush it under the rug and keep it all at home. But unlike previous years, the size of the battery no longer dictates how much of the credit you get. It's more about where the battery and its parts came from. Critical battery minerals, meaning it must be recycled, extracted, or processed in the US, and battery components, meaning it has to be manufactured or assembled in the US. You'll get the full credit if certain percentages of your battery fits into one of those 2 categories and half for each. Now, there are a handful of new EVs that qualify for the credit at least until the end of this year. So basically, you better watch this and then head to the showroom you want like ASAP. These cars have made the list because they are or will be assembled in the US. From the BMW X5 plug-in hybrid and Ford Mustang Mach-E to the Lucid Air, there's quite a bit of variety. The link below has all the choices listed. And just to be clear, the Lucid qualifies for now, but starting in 2023, it will be too expensive for the sedan limitation. So keep that in mind. So what about used EVs? Do they count? Well, kinda, which is still good news because last year, used EVs weren't even in the mix. First off, there's a price limit capping any used EV at $25,000, meaning you had to pay that amount total or less to qualify, and it has to be at least 2 years old. Also, it's about the way you file your taxes. You know, single or married with dependents. Don't worry, I'll be checking the single box. Anyway, the way you file and your modified adjusted gross income will determine if you're even eligible for your used EV. Also, it must be purchased at a dealership and can only be for personal use. Okay, I know what you may be thinking. So if you purchase an eligible EV or PHEV before this past August, is your tax credit still legit? Well, that's actually the next most important thing you need to know. Answer is yes, but if you bought it before August and say it doesn't get delivered until after the new year, you'll need a written binding sales contract prior to August 16th in order to get that tax credit. If you are leasing the EV, the tax credit goes to the manufacturer that's offering the lease, not you, which honestly is always how it's been. The sixth and almost final thing you should know is now that the Inflation Reduction Act has been signed into law, the North American Final Assembly requirement and buyer income limits will immediately apply through the rest of 2022. Unfortunately, this will greatly reduce the pool of vehicles to choose from. But if you're watching this in 2023, the battery sourcing rules will already be in effect, and we'll have a better idea of which vehicles will qualify. All right, you waited through this whole video for me to tell you the last and final thing you need to know, and it's the deciding factor. Now, I have to get a bit personal here. How much do you make? I know, it's a terrible question to ask, but in this case, it's important. It's really all about how you file your taxes. Remember, single. So if you're checking that same box, which, I don't know, maybe call me later, it actually means your gross income can't exceed $150,000. Head of the household, yours caps at $225,000. And you joint return folks, well, you can just forget about it after $300,000. There it is, everything you need to know. Now, keep in mind, as of this recording, the Department of Treasury still needs to set its final guidelines, so the list of eligible vehicles may change in 2023. Check out the link below for those updates and a more in-depth look on all I told you about today. Did you know we have a top 10 for every category? So check out Edmunds.com no matter what kind of car, truck, or SUV you're searching for.